So joining me for the first time, we've never met before, Mr. John Carpay. Hello.
Hey, pleased to be with you, Anita.
It was so nice to have you. It's so nice to have you. You're going to fill us all in on all these crazy bills. But before we get into that, if you go on your website, the JCCF website, there are like a list of cases. And you guys have been involved in so many things. I mean, you have had cases against Bonnie Henry for when she was closing the churches, and basically, maybe I could just talk about this with you for 1 minute, right? She closed the churches and the gyms and any programs that might keep you healthy, right? And when I worked at Global, one of the tweets I got fired right after this tweet that I sent, but I said, can somebody ask the provincial health officer why the churches and gyms are closed and the strip clubs and casinos are open? And I got raked over the coals by my bosses. But can you speak to that a little bit? It's almost like the inverse of what is going to keep you healthy.
Yeah, there was no medical or scientific basis for lockdowns. There was a very powerful propaganda machine at play. We had the government-funded media, including the one that you were fired from, that simply parroted the government's message. And the chief medical officer in Alberta, Dina Hinshaw, she claimed falsely that her lockdowns were evidence-based, and that was a complete lie. To lock down an entire society for months on end had never been tried before in history. She was doing a brand new experiment. So were the other chief medical officers. So it was not evidence-based, it was theory-based. And at the end of the day, in the Justice Centre's court actions all across Canada, there's no government has put forward compelling evidence to show that lockdown saved any lives. They go into court and they say lockdown saved lives, lockdown saved lives, lockdown saved lives. But the evidence is simply not there. It wasn't produced before the courts. So it was a dark time. And the lack of science is just as you say, if the churches and gyms are closed, but strip clubs and casinos are open, where's the science there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And for the Global News Network to punish me for saying that, it says a lot about them. So I rag on them any chance I get, because really, honestly, and if you're watching them, they just reported so badly on the pandemic. So yeah. So anyway, but moving on now. One other thing I wanted to ask you that I also was looking at on the website today. I have 2 teenage sons, and one of my sons, this was weeks ago, he was saying we were talking about land acknowledgements, because in his high school, they have to do it at all the assemblies, and he's been doing this for years. Right now he's in grade 9. And he was just asking me about them. Like, he just said, Mom, it just feels so hollow. It feels so empty. Like, why do we say this? We're just saying words. But, he even said to me, when does this end? Like, it's been 400 years or something of this land acknowledgement. When can we all just be Canadians? And I actually didn't have an answer. What are your thoughts about land acknowledgement?
Land acknowledgements are hypocritical virtue signaling by people who have no intention of giving away their own house to an Aboriginal for free. They would sell their house to an Aboriginal, but they're not going to say, well, my house is on stolen land, my land is stolen land, and actually give land or houses to Aboriginals for free. Nobody's doing that. The land acknowledgements do nothing to help Aboriginals on reserves who are struggling with poverty, unemployment, high rates of suicide, high rates of drug addiction, family violence, corrupt local government. Land acknowledgements do nothing to help Aboriginals. And in many cases, they talk about the unceded territory of a certain Aboriginal group, when in fact, it's been 500 years of colonization, or 500 years of settlement, or different terms. And so the French and the British came in and they brought their agriculture and industry and technology and their police, their armies, their militaries, their courts, their laws, their language, their culture, their religion. And so when these treaties were signed, they basically recognized the reality that the British Crown was sovereign over what is today Canada and all the people that lived there. And so they shouldn't be imposed on people. And the Justice Centre is actually providing lawyers to Catherine Cronas in Ontario, who at a meeting of her school parent council to which she was elected, and she said very politely that land acknowledgements were political, controversial, divisive, and inappropriate. And a few weeks later, she got a letter from the Hamilton Wentworth District School Board telling her that she's not allowed to attend the parent council meetings to which she was elected. And so we're providing legal defense for her freedom of expression.
Oh, I mean, they'll just kick you right out. If you say something that they don't like, off you go. They're done with you. And it's terrifying, isn't it?
It is. Although on the flip side,
yeah,
if there's a dozen people against land acknowledgements, and every public meeting, one of them speaks out and maybe gets kicked out of the meeting, but then the next meeting, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, if people say, I object to this, I think it's political, it's controversial, it's divisive, it's inappropriate. If people start objecting to it, then it's going to crumble, because right now it's just this psychological coercion that people are understandably giving into. But I think it'd be great if Canadians all over Canada politely, peacefully, no violence, but politely said, I object, this is political, and it shouldn't be part of the beginning of a school classroom or a city council meeting or any other governmental meeting. In private affairs, that's fine. If a private institution wants to do it, that's their business. But if it's a public school or a school board meeting, then there's no place for those kinds of political statements to be imposed on the entire population.
That's the thing. Yeah, it is imposed upon us. And if for me, I'm not really scared to speak up and stand alone. Obviously, I can do that. But for a lot of friends, or my friends and stuff, they might feel the same way, but they are scared to speak up because you're just on your own. But, if 2, 3, 4, 5, all of a sudden you get a dozen people speaking up, then you grow stronger, right? Then it makes it a little bit easier. So I hope that things like that happen. Now, moving on, we've got this bill, C2. Now, this bill is touted, and there's so many bills, aren't there? The online harms, the this, the that, each one sounding more ominous than the next one. But this one is touted as a border bill, the Strong Borders Act. And there's a lot in this bill, but first of all, okay, let's start with this. Under this bill, police can now open your mail without a warrant. There's a number of things in this bill, and we can go through them. But basically, they're starting off by saying this is for your national security. It's always framed with good intentions. It's for border security, to protect Canadians, and a measure to keep us safe. But what is with this part in here about the mail? Police can now open your mail without a warrant. And it doesn't even mean if a package is suspicious. I mean, is this really in that bill? And
Yes.
Why would they want to open your mail?
I mean, this bill, the government calls it the Strong Borders Act. I call it the Strong Surveillance Act. It takes us a third of the way to becoming a complete police state, where police just have these unlimited powers to go into any place they want, demand information, punish people for not providing information, open their mail, et cetera, et cetera. It is just, it's astounding. It's over 100 pages long. It amends the Customs Act. It amends the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. It creates a brand new piece of legislation. It's got a long name.
Yeah. It doesn't.
Protection. Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead.
It amends Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act. It amends the Proceeds of Crime, Money Laundering, and Terrorist Financing Act. And it creates a brand new bill called Supporting Authorized Access to Information Act. So this is why it's so long. It's over 100 pages. I've started going through it with a fine-tooth comb, and I'm not even done yet with 100 pages. But some of the highlights, or highlights, not a good word, but some of the key points are it criminalizes the use of cash in amounts of $10,000 or more. It allows the police as well as Canada Post to open mail. It creates new powers for government officials to demand any company or corporation. It could be a hotel, a car wash, a car rental company, a restaurant, to turn over information of who's on their email list and the IP addresses of those people. It's not just big internet providers. And it gets rid of the need for a warrant, which is it's a tradition that's older than Canada. Canada is 157 years old, I guess, turning 158 on July 1st. And we have this tradition that police can fight crime by going to court and getting a search warrant. So if they think that Mark Smith is running a prostitution gang or trafficking in child pornography or whatever, they can go to court and they can swear an affidavit saying, we believe that Mark Smith is doing criminal stuff in his house, and they can get a search warrant for him. What this bill does is, in many situations, it eliminates the need for search warrants, and it gives police these broad powers to enter into homes and businesses and demand information, and citizens can be punished with fines of up to $100,000 for non-compliance. So it's just it's really scary, and it's astounding what's in there.
Yeah, but why do they umbrella this as the border bill? Like, this has nothing to do with the borders. And how do they make the leap from the border to your mailbox? And also, it says here, the bill gives authorities the right to contact any internet-based company, from Gmail to PayPal to Instagram, and request your name, address, usernames, purchase history, IP logs, and associated accounts. This is like domestic tracking. But how do they put this under the umbrella of a border? It's got nothing to do with that. Like, how do you think they're doing that?
I think they're doing it on purpose because I've often said, and I'll keep on saying it until I die, politicians never take away your rights and freedoms without providing a nice sounding pretext. And they're going to be talking about safety, security, the national interest, the public interest, public health. That's a big one. They'll use public health to violate your charter rights and freedoms. There's always a pretext. So here, most Canadians want strong borders. I want strong borders. And there are parts of the bill that are about borders. But then in this same lengthy bill, which again, it amends a half dozen different pieces of federal legislation and creates the brand new Supporting Authorized Access to Information Act. So they're going much more broadly, and they're trying to sneak it by. Stephen Harper and his government tried the same thing about 12 years ago. It was all about protecting children from pedophiles, and that was the title of the bill, was something along those lines. But the bill itself gave police powers to get all this information about the entire population without needing a warrant. And then the minister said, you're either with us or you're with the pedophiles. And nobody bought it. And the government just retreated. But it was the same thing. They tug at the heartstrings, right? Like, who isn't against child pornography? Who doesn't want child pornographers to get caught and prosecuted and punished? So they bring in this bill to give all kinds of new powers to police, but they dress it up as, we're fighting against child pornography and pedophiles. Yeah. And now this 12 years later, it's like, well, we want strong borders. Therefore, we're going to empower the police to open your mail.
Yeah, exactly. People want strong borders, but we want border checks. We want more staffing. I've said this in a couple other videos, but I know a couple of RCMP officers and some longshoremen, and they tell me that, that it's so easy to get anything in. If there's any place you want to commit a crime, it's Canada, because you'll just be right back out again. So when we say we want strong borders, I think that's what we mean. We want, checks and balances to be better at the borders, and we want probably immigration changes and things like that. We don't want you opening our mail and doing all these ridiculous things. And there's, you briefly brought up the cash, that I can't even believe this is real, but it's now a crime to conduct cash transactions over $10,000. So this is not like fraud or money laundering. It's just cash. Does this mean that my mom can't give my uncle $10,000 to buy his Buick? Is that what this is?
It doesn't go, it would be even worse if it was that. No, what it does is it makes it illegal to donate $10,000 cash to a charity, even if that's broken up into separate payments, right? So if somebody donated $1,000 cash to the Justice Center each month, by November, they'd be committing a crime. Also from commercial businesses, so you can't use cash 10,000 or more, say to buy a car, for example, or professionals, you can't use cash. If you get a legal bill for more than 10,000, and many legal bills are a lot more than that, you can't use cash. And a lot of people will say, well, look, hardly anybody's using cash in that amount anyways, right? Which is true. There's not many people that are using 10,000 at once to buy a car. Problem is, once we accept that the perfectly legal use of cash to make a legal purchase or to donate money to a charity, if we accept that cash is criminal, that doing so is criminal, once it's on the books, it's very easy for the governments to say, well, now it's going to be a $5,000 limit, then a $100 limit, $500 limit, $100 limit. You can only use $100 cash, for going to a garage sale. And this is a step towards central bank digital currency, where all the money will be electronic only. Coins and bills won't matter at all. And the government will have total control over all of the money in Canada, including all of the money in your bank account, because there's no more cash. So this is frightening.
Yeah, I work in a clinic in the daytime, and we process a lot of payments. And I would say I would say even more, 85% of the people use their phone to pay. It's Apple Pay, right? And and we accept cash, and once in a while somebody gives us cash, and it's fantastic when somebody does. But this whole thing of Apple Pay, I mean, if you're controlled by your phone to make a purchase, what's to say that they can't just switch that off for you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, central bank digital currency means that there's no more hard copy money that citizens can buy and can use. So everything just gets relegated to an electronic statement. Your bank's got their computer saying how much money you have, and the credit card companies and the government, and then the government can take control over all the purchases. And they might say, well, you're not a good citizen because you are spending more than $100 a month on gas for your car, so you're driving your car too much. So therefore, we're not going to allow you to buy an airplane ticket because flying is a privilege, and you're a bad citizen because we don't like what you posted on Facebook, or you're buying too much gasoline. So we'll still allow you to buy groceries, but you can't buy an airplane ticket. As just one example. If there's no more cash, you become very helpless, very powerless, with government having total control over all of the money in the country.
But the problem is, a lot of regular people don't see it like this. They just say, oh, it's so convenient. Oh, it's in my phone. The convenience of it is what is taking over people. Like, there are a lot of people I know that couldn't care less if we didn't have cash, because everything is digital, and they are not seeing how dangerous this is. And I don't think the media is reporting on the dangers of it. I think they just sort of market it as convenience, but you do have to ask yourself, like, convenient for who, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, It should be a choice. Like I do, most of my purchases, I just took my daughter out for dinner shortly before this interview, and I paid with a credit card. And I like the convenience. However, there should be a choice there. And it's different too. If all cash is gone, now we're really at the mercy of banks, credit card companies, and governments can mess with us in ways that right now they can't, because we have that safety valve that if need be, I can move back to cash, and most places do accept cash. So the Justice Center, actually, on our website, we've got a report on central bank digital currency, what it is, how it works, how it's potentially dangerous. And that's at www.jccf.ca, Justice Center Constitutional Freedoms, if anybody wants to read up on central bank digital currency.
Do you know if it's legal for a business to say, no, sorry, we don't accept cash? Some businesses sometimes have signs up like that. Isn't it not legal tender?
It is. I think it's... I'm not sure off the top of my head whether it's federal or provincial law, But I think some provinces have laws on the books to the effect that cash must be accepted. And a friend of mine, some 20, 30, 40 years ago, her father sued a business over his right to use cash. I don't know what the issue was back in the day because most people were using cash, but
Right.
yeah, there very well may be a legal right. I'll look into that and try and get back to you. But laws are sometimes disregarded, right? So you might still have a business saying,
yeah, we
no
don't
credit
accept
cards.
cash. Like we don't have change. Like at my workplace, I don't have change to give someone, but I can give them a credit, on file. So, okay. So what we need to tell people here today, there's quite a few people watching online, which is great. So thank you guys so much for watching. So whenever anybody hears anything about Bill C2, Stronger Border Bill, just know that within this bill is this thing that CSIS, the police can come and open your mail, that they can watch what you're doing digitally. I mean, this is just so like, why are you picking on us, normal people? We're not really I'm a normal lady, right? I'm not doing anything other than probably talking too much online that you need to come and open my mail. Like this is just so, I don't know. Is this close to being passed, this bill, or do we have time?
There's time, and people should contact their member of parliament, regardless of the party. So if your member of parliament happens to be Liberal, it's fine. Contact your MP and say, Bill C2 is bad news. It violates my privacy. It threatens to take away my right to use cash, etc. Vote against it. Or if you don't vote against Bill C2, then I'm not going to support you in the next election, whatever. But also, if your member of parliament happens to be Conservative or Green or Bloc or whatever, contact your MP and send an email and say, please vote against Bill C2. They need to hear the message. We see governments backing down when there's a big public outcry. And just this massive privacy violation, it takes us a third of the way. Not entirely, I don't want to exaggerate, but it's a big step towards becoming a police state where citizens no longer have those personal security rights, privacy rights to say, police cannot open my mail, cannot come into my house, cannot obtain information about me unless they have a search warrant supported by a court order. Only then, if you're a suspected criminal and the police have gone to court and the judge has approved a search warrant, only in those circumstances should police be able to violate our privacy.
But I think somewhere in this bill, they're saying they don't need a search warrant. I think that's what they're trying to push for. So they can.
That's exactly the problem, especially for demanding information from electronic service providers. Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, no
Electronic service provider is broadly defined. I was reading this last night, and it's anybody providing an electronic service, but an electronic service includes providing somebody with information sent by email. So every church, every charity, every business, every car wash, every hotel, anybody who sends out emails, the police, the government officials, it might not be police because they're creating a whole new set of bureaucrats for this who are designated officers designated by the Minister of Public Safety. Government officials can say that they want to see who you're emailing to, and they want to check out your computer system, and they want information. And if you don't cooperate, then as an individual, you can be subject to a $100,000 fine. And as a business, you can be subject, or as a charity, a nonprofit, a church, a mosque, a synagogue, you can be subject to a $500,000 fine. These are the fines in there for not cooperating with these non-police government officials. It's, I wish I was exaggerating, but
Yeah.
it's in there. You can look, if you want to see the bill itself, you go to House of Commons and you get Parliament website, and then it looks at, legislation, and then you look up Bill C2. You can read the whole thing. It'll take you a long time, but you can read it for yourself. It's the government's put it out. It's online. So it's past first reading. And if there isn't a big public outcry, it's likely to just get passed in second reading, third reading, and become law.
Oh my goodness, that's the thing. And if we need the outcry, The outcry has to happen. I'll actually link something in the description later of a letter that people can write to their MLAs, to MPs, to voice their concern about this, because it will quietly just sneak through, right? So, anything else you'd like to say about this bill? People just keep their eyes and ears open, right?
There's a law prof at the University of Ottawa, Michael Geist, Geist. He is very thoughtful and has written a lot about the bill, and it's in pretty much in layman's language. Like, you can just read it, and it's not horribly. He's not speaking legalese, so that's a good reference source. The Globe and Mail has had some good columns about it. The National Post has written about it. So if you it's worth reading up on. But the important thing is contact your MP. If you don't want to do a phone call, you could do an email. And if MPs don't hear opposition to this, you can be fairly certain they're just going to vote it through.
Oh boy. John Carpay, thank you so much for joining me on this live stream today and giving us the 411 on this on these bills. I hope to speak with you again soon in the future. Thank you so much.
It's an honor to be invited, and I look forward to the next time. Have a great rest of the day.
Oh, thank you. You too. Thank you, John.
Thank you.